The wine was red. Deep, expensive red, the kind that stains silk and ruins reputations. Kellen Whitmore held the glass above his wife's head like a weapon, his face twisted in rage, while 300 of Connecticut's wealthiest elites held their breath in the grand ballroom of the Meridian Hotel. "You embarrass me," he hissed, and then he tipped it. The liquid cascaded down Rivka's cream-colored dress, soaking through to her skin, pooling at her feet. Gasps echoed through the marble hall. Phones came out. Cameras flashed. But Rivka didn't move. Didn't flinch. Didn't cry. She just looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in 7 years. And then the security guards came. Not for her. For him. What happened next would shatter everything Kellen thought he knew about the woman he'd kept locked in his gilded cage. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back. Way back. To the day Rivka stopped being herself. Before we dive in, if you've ever felt invisible in your own life, or watched someone underestimate the wrong person, smash that like button and drop a comment below. Trust me, you're gonna want to see how this ends. Now let's get into it. 7 years earlier, Rivka Ashford had been someone. Not just someone, she'd been the someone. A coding genius who'd built 3 successful apps before turning 25. Venture capitalists fought over her. Tech blogs called her the quiet storm of Silicon Valley. She spoke at conferences, mentored startups, and had a waiting list of companies begging for her consultation. Then she met Kellen Whitmore at a charity dinner in Greenwich. Tall. Charming. Old money. He wore confidence like a second skin and talked about his family's real estate empire the way other men talked about sports. He made her laugh that night. Made her feel seen in a room full of people who only saw her work. "You're different," he'd said, touching her hand across the table. "You don't need to prove anything to anyone." 6 months later, they were married. 6 months after that, she deleted her LinkedIn. It started small. Little comments. "Do you really need to take that call during dinner? Maybe wear something less attention-grabbing to my parents' thing. I think it's great you had a career, but we don't really need the money now, do we?" Then came the rules. No working past 6. No weekend conferences. No meetings without telling him exactly who, what, when, where, and why. "I just want to know you're safe," Kellen would say, kissing her forehead. "Is that so wrong?" And Rivka, who'd spent her whole life being strong and independent, found herself agreeing. Shrinking. Apologizing for taking up space. By year 3, she wasn't consulting anymore. By year 5, she wasn't coding at all. By year 7, she was picking up Kellen's dry cleaning, organizing his mother's garden parties, and pretending she didn't notice the way his friends' wives looked at her. Half pity, half relief that it wasn't them. The Whitmore house in Westport was a monument to Kellen's success. 8 bedrooms. 6 bathrooms. A kitchen bigger than most apartments, where Rivka spent her mornings preparing breakfast exactly the way Kellen liked it. Scrambled eggs, wheat toast, lightly buttered, black coffee at 174 degrees. Not 175. Not 173. Exactly 174. "It's cold," Kellen said one Tuesday morning, pushing the cup away without looking up from his phone. Rivka's hand shook slightly as she took it back. "I'll make another." "See that you do." His assistant, Bryn, a sharp-eyed woman in her 30s who wore her ambition like armor, smirked from the doorway. "Must be nice having a personal chef, boss." Kellen laughed. "Chef. Rivka's more like quality control. Making sure the household runs smoothly." "Right, honey." Honey. The word tasted like poison. "Right," Rivka whispered. But here's what nobody knew. What Kellen didn't know. What even Rivka had almost forgotten. Late at night, when Kellen was asleep or out at his business meetings that smelled like perfume and lies, Rivka would slip into the guest room. She'd open her laptop, the old one she'd hidden in the back of the closet, and she'd code. Not for money. Not for recognition. Because she needed to remember she was still her. She'd built a new app. A revolutionary one. Something that would change how small businesses managed inventory and finances. She called it Lighthouse, because it was meant to guide people through the fog. She'd submitted it to the Tech Venture Innovation Awards under a pseudonym, R. Ash. And 3 weeks ago, she'd gotten the email. Congratulations. Your application has been selected as this year's most valuable product. Please join us at the annual gala to accept your award. The gala Kellen was dragging her to. The one he'd been talking about for months because his company was sponsoring it. The one where he had no idea his wife was the guest of honor. Do you see where this is going? Drop a comment if you've ever had a secret talent nobody knew about. Because what's about to happen is wild. The night of the gala, Rivka stood in front of her closet, hands trembling. Kellen had picked out her dress, a modest cream-colored gown that covered everything, made her look like a walking doily. Elegant, he'd called it. Appropriate. She'd wanted to wear the midnight blue dress hanging in the back. The one that made her feel powerful. But that would have required an explanation, and explanations led to questions, and questions led to fights. So she wore the cream. Kellen barely looked at her in the car. He was too busy texting, his jaw tight with whatever stress he refused to share. Remember, he said without glancing up, tonight's important. Stick close, smile, don't talk business. Just, be pleasant. Pleasant. As if she were decoration. Of course, Rivka said softly. But her heart was hammering. Because in 2 hours, R. Ash would be called to the stage. And she'd have to decide, stay invisible or step into the light. The Meridian Hotel was glittering. Chandeliers like frozen waterfalls. Women in diamonds. Men in power suits. The air smelled like money and ambition. Kellen worked the room like a politician, hand on Rivka's lower back, steering her from conversation to conversation. She smiled on cue, nodded politely, played the part she'd perfected. Then she saw Bryn. Kellen's assistant was standing near the bar, laughing with a group of executives. She caught Rivka's eye and raised her glass in a mock toast, her expression dripping with contempt. Rivka looked away. There's the Hendersons, Kellen muttered, already moving toward a silver-haired couple. Let me do the talking. Always. He always did the talking. Rivka felt the weight of the evening pressing down on her shoulders. Maybe she should just leave. Slip out before the awards. Kellen would never know. She could keep her 2 lives separate, the invisible wife and the hidden creator. But then the lights dimmed. The MC, a charismatic man named Tel McKay, took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tech Venture Innovation Awards. Applause thundered through the ballroom. Tonight, we celebrate the brilliant minds shaping our digital future. And we have a very special award to present, the most valuable product of the year. Rivka's pulse spiked. Kellen leaned over, whispering, "This part's always boring. Want another drink?" "I'm fine," she said, her voice barely audible over her own heartbeat. Tel continued, "This year's MVP is an application that's already changing lives for small business owners across the country. Lighthouse, a tool so intuitive, so powerful, that our judges were unanimous in their decision." The screen behind him lit up with the app's interface. Rivka's interface. Her design. Her work. The creator of Lighthouse chose to remain anonymous during the judging process, but tonight, we're honored to finally reveal the genius behind this innovation. Kellen yawned. Actually yawned. Please join me in welcoming to the stage. Ash. The room erupted in applause. And Rivka stood up. Wait. Before we continue, do you think Rivka should have told Kellen before this moment? Or is the surprise exactly what he deserves? Comment below and let me know. Now back to the story because things are about to explode. Kellen's hand shot out, gripping her wrist. What are you doing? That's me, Rivka said quietly. I'm Ash. His face went blank. Then red. What? I created Lighthouse. I'm the MVP. Around them, people were starting to notice. Heads turning. Whispers beginning. You're lying, Kellen hissed. Sit down. You're embarrassing yourself. But Rivka pulled her wrist free and started walking toward the stage. Each step felt like breaking through glass. Tel was scanning the crowd, confused. Ash, are you here? I'm here, Rivka called out, her voice stronger than she'd heard it in years. The spotlight found her. 300 faces turned her way. And Kellen Whitmore, who couldn't stand not being the center of attention, who couldn't stand being surprised, who couldn't stand the idea that his wife, his possession, had a whole secret life he knew nothing about. He snapped. Kellen moved fast. Too fast for Rivka to react. He grabbed her arm, not gently, not the way you guide someone, but the way you grab property, and yanked her backward. The crowd gasped. Several people stood up. Kellen, let go. You don't get to humiliate me, he snarled, low enough that only those nearby could hear. His face was purple with rage. Whatever game you're playing, it's over. Now. Tell was still on stage, microphone in hand, clearly uncertain what to do. Is everything okay? But Kellen wasn't listening to anyone but his own fury. In his mind, this was betrayal. Disrespect. His wife, keeping secrets, achieving things, becoming someone without his permission. The violation of it made him reckless. He grabbed a wine glass from a nearby table. Full. Red. Expensive. You want attention? He hissed. Fine. Let's give them something to look at. And that's when he poured it. The wine hit Rivka's dress like a bloodstain spreading across fabric. Cold. Sticky. Humiliating. The ballroom went dead silent. Rivka stood there, dripping, while Kellen's chest heaved with satisfaction. He thought he'd won. Thought he'd put her back in her place. But then she laughed. Not a bitter laugh. Not a broken laugh. A laugh of pure, crystalline relief. 7 years, Rivka said, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. 7 years I let you make me small. 7 years I believed your version of who I was supposed to be. Kellen's face twisted. Rivka, shut up. No. The word came out like a gunshot. I'm done shutting up. She turned to face the crowd, wine still dripping from her hair, and her voice didn't waver. My name is Rivka Ashford Whitmore. I am Ash. I created Lighthouse. And I did it in secret because the man I married made me believe that being smart, being successful, being myself was somehow wrong. Murmurs rippled through the room. Phones were definitely recording now. Kellen reached for her again, but this time, someone stepped between them. Sable Irving, CEO of Tech Venture. A woman in her 50s with silver hair and eyes like steel. Mr. Whitmore, Sable said calmly, I'm going to need you to step back. This is my wife. This is our guest of honor, Sable interrupted, her voice ice cold. And you just assaulted her in front of 300 witnesses. 2 security guards appeared at Kellen's shoulders. Big men. Professional. You can't be serious, Kellen sputtered, looking around for support. Do you know who I am? My company is sponsoring this event. Was sponsoring, Sable corrected. Past tense. Escort him out. The guards took his arms. Kellen's face went from red to white. Rivka, tell them this is a misunderstanding. Tell them. But Rivka just watched him. Really watched him. Saw him clearly for the first time without the fog of fear and conditioning. He looked small. Goodbye, Kellen, she said quietly. And they dragged him out, his protests echoing down the marble hallway until the doors shut and he was just gone. The ballroom exhaled. Sable turned to Rivka, her expression softening. Are you okay? Rivka looked down at her ruined dress, then back up at the stage, at the screen still showing her app, at the 300 people staring at her. Yeah, she said, and meant it. Yeah, I really am. Good. Sable offered her arm. Because you have an award to accept. They walked to the stage together. Tell handed Rivka the microphone with a warm smile. That was intense. You good? Better than good, Rivka said. She turned to face the crowd. Some people were still standing. Others had tears in their eyes. Everyone was listening. I didn't plan for tonight to go like this, Rivka began, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. I thought I'd just accept the award quietly, maybe give a quick thank you, and slip back into being invisible. She paused, looking at the faces watching her. But I think I'm done being invisible. Applause started. Slow at first, then building. Lighthouse was born from frustration. I was watching small business owners, people with incredible ideas but limited resources, struggle with tools that were either too complicated or too expensive. I wanted to create something simple. Something that actually helped. She glanced at the screen showing her app. I built it late at night, in secret, because I'd convinced myself that my work didn't matter anymore. That I didn't matter anymore. Her voice cracked slightly, but it turns out I was wrong. The applause grew louder. So thank you. Thank you for seeing value in Lighthouse. And thank you for reminding me that I don't need anyone's permission to be who I am. The room erupted. Standing ovation. Genuine, thunderous applause. Sable handed her the award, a sleek glass sculpture that caught the light like a prism, and Rivka held it like it weighed nothing and everything all at once. As she walked off stage, several people rushed up to her. A woman in her 40s with kind eyes grabbed her hand. I'm Nadia Chen. Venture Capital. I want to invest in whatever you build next. A younger man, maybe 30, introduced himself as Finn Rodriguez. I run a startup incubator. We'd love to have you mentor our companies. Even Bryn, Kellen's assistant, approached, looking uncomfortable but determined. I just want to say, I'm sorry for how I acted. You deserved better. Rivka accepted the apology with a nod. No malice. No triumph. Just acknowledgement. And here's where the story could end, right? Woman escapes controlling husband, gets recognition, lives happily ever after. But that's not real life. Because the aftermath. That's where things get complicated. Kellen filed for divorce immediately. Not because he wanted to let Rivka go, but because he wanted to control the narrative. His lawyers painted him as the victim, the supportive husband betrayed by a secretive wife. It might have worked, too, except the video of him pouring wine on Rivka had gone viral. 7 million views. News outlets picked it up. Think pieces were written about financial abuse and coercive control. His mother, the formidable Constance Whitmore, called Rivka personally. I always thought you were too soft for my son, Constance said without preamble. Turns out I was wrong. You were too strong. He couldn't handle it. It wasn't quite an apology, but it was something. Rivka moved out of the Westport house and into a small apartment in Hartford. Nothing fancy. Just hers. She hired her own lawyers. Fought for a fair settlement. Got it. Lighthouse exploded. Within 2 months, it had 500,000 users. Investors were throwing money at her. She hired a small team, including Finn from the incubator, who turned out to be a brilliant operations manager. But the best moment, the one that made everything worth it, came on a random Thursday afternoon. Rivka was in a coffee shop, working on Lighthouse 2.0, when a woman approached her table. Excuse me, are you Rivka Ashford? Rivka looked up. The woman was in her 20s, nervous, holding her phone like a lifeline. I am. I just wanted to say thank you. I saw your speech. The one at the gala. And I left my boyfriend. He wasn't as bad as your husband, but he was getting there. You made me realize I didn't have to wait until it got worse. The woman's eyes were wet. So thank you. For being brave. Rivka stood up and hugged her. A stranger. A kindred spirit. Thank you, Rivka whispered. For choosing yourself. Kellen tried to come back. Of course he did. He showed up at her apartment one evening, looking thinner, tired, carrying flowers like they were a shield. Rivka. Please. Just hear me out. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed. You have 2 minutes. I was wrong. About everything.
I let me ego destroy us.
I see that now. He looked genuinely broken. I've been in therapy. I'm working on myself. And I miss you. Miss us. For a second, just a second, Rivka felt the old pull. The instinct to soothe, to forgive, to make it better. Then she remembered the wine. The years of silence. The woman she'd almost forgotten how to be. Kellen, she said gently, I don't miss us. Because us was really just you, and me trying to fit into the spaces you allowed. That's not love. That's not partnership. I can change. Maybe you can. I hope you do. But not with me. She stepped back. I'm not your second chance. I'm my own first priority. She closed the door. And for the first time in 7 years, she didn't feel guilty about it. Lighthouse won 3 more awards. Rivka spoke at conferences again. Mentored young developers. Started a foundation for women leaving controlling relationships. She didn't date. Didn't feel the need to. She was too busy rebuilding herself from the inside out. But she did make friends. Real ones. People who saw her, all of her, and valued what they found. On the 1-year anniversary of the gala, Sable Irving called. I have a proposition, she said. Tech Venture is launching a new fund specifically for women-led startups. I want you on the advisory board. I'm in, Rivka said without hesitation. Just like that. Just like that. Sable laughed. I knew I liked you. That night, Rivka stood on her apartment balcony, looking out at the Hartford skyline. She thought about the woman she'd been. The one who shrunk herself to fit someone else's vision. She thought about the woman she was becoming. Scarred, yes. But stronger. Clearer. And she thought about the woman she'd help others become. The one still trapped, still silent, still waiting for permission to be themselves. This is for you, she whispered to them, wherever they were. Then she went inside, opened her laptop, and got back to work. Because the best revenge isn't anger. It's becoming so undeniably, unapologetically yourself that no one can ever make you small again. If this story hit you in the feels, do me a favor. Smash that like button and drop a comment telling me what you would have done in Rivka's position. Would you have stayed quiet? Fought back sooner? Let me know below. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story, someone who's been made to feel small, someone who's forgotten their own power, share this video with them. Because sometimes, all it takes is seeing someone else break free to realize you can too. Subscribe for more stories about people who refused to stay broken. Hit that bell so you never miss an upload. And remember, you don't need anyone's permission to be extraordinary. You already are. I'll see you in the next one. Stay strong. Stay you. END.